Office of the Chief Medical Examiner.
And how long have you been doing that?
For 5 years almost.
Okay. And have you been tendered as an expert and testified in court before?
Yes, sir, I have.
Approximately how many times?
Approximately 16 times.
Your Honor, would move to tender Dr. Yella as an expert.
Any objection?
No objection.
His testimony will be received as proffered.
Dr. Yell, did you have, how many autopsies did you perform as it is related to this case?
2 autopsies related to this case, sir.
And you created reports related to that?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And that also includes photographs as well, is that right?
Yes, sir.
If I could approach, Your Honor.
Yes.
Dr. Yell, I'm handing you what we've been marked and has been introduced as State's Exhibit A, that 8. I'm sorry, 8. And ask you to take a look at, if you could go to tab D.
Yes, sir.
And take a second to get there.
All right, yes, sir.
And did you have an occasion to perform an autopsy of Gabriel Torres?
Yes, sir, I did.
Before we get into some of your findings, can you just tell us how old Mr. Torres was? Were you able to determine that?
Yes, sir. He was listed as 29 years old.
And in your autopsy of Officer Torres or Mr. Torres, what can you tell us just generally overall what types of injuries you noticed and anything about performing this autopsy that was complex or unique?
Yes, sir. So in general, the types of injuries that Mr. Torres had were shotgun injuries. He had multiple clusters of wounds that seemed consistent with a shotgun type wounding pattern. And there was also evidence of what we might call an intermediary target, a barrier between the shotgun and the person who was shot.
Okay. And overall, how many, and we talked about these aren't in any specific order, but how many different wounds did you either note or kind of group together?
Yes, sir. So there are 3 main clusters of shotgun defects, so entrances of the skin, and there's also another separate wound on the left palm, the back of the left palm, about here. So in total, some of these appear complex, and what I mean by that is they seem to be more than one pellet entering in the same spot, and that's just because these inches are not perfectly round. They have sort of an irregular and enlarged shape to them, so it's suggestive to me that there's multiple. But considering those together, there's at least 19 defects here, and I would, like I say, venture that there were more because of these complex wounds that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, how about you just go through and keeping in mind that these are in no particular order, but the first wound or wound cluster that you described, can you walk us through that, talk to us about that?
Yes, sir, I can. So the first cluster that I describe is on the left upper chest, and so I'm kind of pointing to this area on myself right now. That cluster has 10 defects in it, so there was 10 entrance wounds. It also has evidence of an intermediate range, which we heard Dr. Nelson talking about some. And what I mean by that is that there are the tiny abrasions related to stippling, and there's also a shot cup abrasion there. There are additionally some more irregular abrasions that we call pseudo-stippling. So pseudo-stippling is a concept where we were talking before about more typical stippling is caused by burning or partially burned gunpowder particles that are striking the skin. In the case of a shotgun, shot shell that has this filler material we discussed, this white sort of plastic particle stuff. That also causes stippling. Pseudo-stippling is caused when a projectile, so shotgun pellets would be an example, passes through something and shatters it and then drives some of the pieces of what it's going through to hit the skin. So that's pseudo-stippling. In this case, we know from the description of the scene that he was likely shot through a windshield, and so there's glass involved as well. And I found pieces of glass on his skin in various places as well, so that all coheres together with that.
Okay. And are you able to determine kind of a path or directionality of those wounds?
Yes, sir. So in addition to the entrance cluster that I just described, there's also some exits that, again, based on the path of destruction through the body and the general, direction of those injuries, I'm able to tell that the exits on the left upper back, so that would be here, I'm just showing on myself, as well as one in the left armpit, seem to be associated with this wound. So from that, I can tell that the trajectory was mainly backward, in other words, coming from the front to the back, and a little bit to the left, so kind of back this direction.
Okay. And what, if any, can you describe the injuries, the physical injuries that were associated with those wounds?
Yes, sir. So multiple injuries were associated, including damage to several of the ribs on the left side, both the upper and lower lobes of the left lung, as well as the scapula at the back here, some of the muscles in the armpit, and otherwise just generally musculature in the back.
And moving on to the next wound that you described, or,
yes, sir.
Or cluster, can you describe that for us, please?
Yes, sir. The next cluster is in the right neck, so I'm pointing to roughly where this would be on myself. That area has 4 defects. One of them is one of the ones I was discussing that seemed complex. So it has an irregular contour. It's larger than the other defects. I suspect there's multiple pellets that are entering in roughly the same area and causing a more irregular entrance. This one also has evidence of an intermediate range, so stippling. It has a shot cup abrasion nearby it, and these pellets are just irregularly distributed as well. They're not, as Dr. Nelson had mentioned, in a close range of fire, you'd expect the pellets to all stay together and form mostly a single defect, right? And so it's more difficult in this case because of the barrier in between, right? The barrier sort of causes these pellets to behave in a less predictable way and to scatter more than you would expect based on how far the muzzle is from the skin.
Okay, and that barrier meaning, in this case, potential glass, windshield, something like that?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And the path of this wound?
Yes, sir. So the expected exit for this one is also on the left upper back. So there's really only one that I am able to fairly confidently associate with this right neck, but it seems again like it may be multiple pellets exiting through roughly the same defect, the same area. So that again is on the left upper back. There are, however, multiple pellets that are within the body that I think are associated with this wound. So the general direction of it is backward and leftward and a little bit downward, so kind of coming in this direction.
And again, some of that, the complexity there is, I think Dr. Nelson described some overlap, or the idea of overlapping wounds. Was that present on these particular?
Yes, sir, that's absolutely correct. Particularly this wound and the next wound that I will describe, those two have overlapping and intersecting wound tracks, right? So there's sort of a muddle of damage from them that's hard to definitely associate with one or the other.
What injuries were you able to associate with this particular cluster of wounds?
Yes, sir. So multiple muscles in the neck were damaged. One of the largest ones in the neck is the sternocleidomastoid muscle on the front.
Sorry, the largest one in the neck.
Yes. So the largest muscle in the neck, one of the largest muscles in the neck, is called the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So that was damaged, as well as the right collarbone, right clavicle, the right side of the trachea, which is the windpipe running through the middle of the neck here. Several vertebral bodies. Dr. Nelson had mentioned the spinal column has different divisions of it. So T1 and T2 were the ones that were injured in this case. So those are the first and second thoracic vertebrae, so in the chest part. Also, there was damage to the spinal cord in that same area, that upper thoracic area of the spinal column. Several of the ribs were damaged. There was also damage to some of the muscles along the spine, and then just damage to the musculature of the back. Associated with this were several areas of hemorrhage. So there was some bleeding around the spinal cord itself. There was a left-sided focus of bleeding, which we call hemothorax. It was basically surrounding the lung on the left side. And there was also hemorrhage in the lung tissue itself. It's indicative of someone who is trying to breathe and inhaling blood. So we call it hemoaspiration.
Thank you. Moving on to the third cluster that you described, can you tell us about that?
Yes, sir. So the third cluster, third of my description, right, as Dr. Nelson rightly said, we're not able to say the order, but the third in my order of description is a cluster on the right shoulder. So this has, again, 4 defects, but several of them look to be compound to me, multiple pellets entering the same irregular defect. This was also intermediate range. There was stippling and a shot cup. In this case, it wasn't just an abrasion from the shot cup. The shot cup itself, the plastic of it, was actually embedded in one of the wounds at the right shoulder. And there was also pseudostippling associated with this, including nearby on the right arm and forearm.
And again, the path, was that similar to the previous paths that you've described?
Yes, sir. This one seemed to be more leftward directed. Some pellets possibly going a little upward, and maybe even some frontward. There was one exit with this one on the right upper chest, which again, I was able to actually probe, with sort of a tool to stretch across between an entrance and an exit, basically. Okay. So that one I'm confident is coming from this wound cluster. And then there was multiple recovered pellets with this one as well.
And what injuries were you able to associate with this wound?
Yes, sir. So injuries associated with this wound included damage to the head of the humerus on the right. So the humerus, again, is the long bone in the upper arm on the right, and the head is where it is hooking into the shoulder, basically. So damage to the head of the humerus. There was also damage to the right clavicle, the right sternum, which is the breastbone in the middle of your chest. Both the upper and lower lobes of the right lung. Several injuries to the aorta, which is the largest blood vessel in your body that comes out the top of the heart. There was also just general injury to the right chest musculature. And otherwise, bleeding associated with this, there was a right-sided hemothorax, which is blood surrounding the right lung. And there was also blood surrounding the heart related to those aorta injuries we mentioned. So collection of blood around the heart.
I think you mentioned you were able to retain the shot cup from this particular injury.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
To the next wound that you described, can you talk to us about that?
Yes, sir. I mentioned too that there was a single isolated wound on the back of the left palm, so about here. This one was a penetrating wound, and as Dr. Nelson had mentioned, penetrating meaning that it enters and does not exit, versus a perforating wound does both enter and exit. So this wound is on the back left palm. It does also have evidence of stippling around it, so abrasions related to some of that filler or unburned gunpowder particles. And there's an abrasion nearby it that looks to me like it might be basically a graze abrasion of the shot cup passing by and striking the skin and continuing on. This one, like I mentioned, did have one pellet associated with it, which was also in the hand.
And that was recovered?
Yes, sir.
And was there any trajectory or path that you were able to determine from in this injury?
Yes, sir. So it's important to understand when we're talking about the way we describe trajectories, that it's based on the anatomical position. So when I'm saying frontward in this case, that's meaning the way the hand is normally arranged. If I may stand up and kind of demonstrate the position. So this is what we call anatomical position, right? So the palms are facing forward here. So when I say frontward, I'm saying in this position, the entrance is back here and the pellet is towards the palm.
And that's what you found in this particular injury?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Were there any other groups or wounds that you noted while performing this autopsy?
There were a few other scattered injuries that I believe are probably related to the pseudostippling that we're talking about. In other words, shards of glass that were propelled by something firing through them. So these were on the right side of the torso. There were some on the right knee, and some of these actually contained glass in them.
And anything else? Any other wounds that you noted?
There were a few small abrasions too of the left elbow and the right knee, which was not specific, nothing that I could definitely say those were from.
Now, before we move into the photographs, is there anything else about these wounds or wound clusters that I haven't asked about that you found of note?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
So I'll ask you to turn to the first of the photographs there in, I guess we're still in tab D of State's Exhibit 8.
Yes, sir.
And I think we've heard Dr. Nelson testify about identifying a photograph. Is that what we've got here?
Yes, sir. This is an identifying photograph.
And what can you describe to the court what is of note in this first photograph?
Yes, sir. So in this photograph, again, the focus on this is just to show his face to document his identity. But otherwise, in it, we can see a large amount of red stippling. A lot of it is irregular. So what I mean by that is different sizes, different shapes. So that tells me some of this is pseudo-stippling, likely. Regular stippling is usually very regular in size. So there's considerable amount of stippling and pseudo-stippling around his face, which I believe is mostly associated with that right neck cluster. We can also see some of those wounds on the right neck and stippling around them, as well as some of the left upper chest cluster we discussed, and then the one exit wound that's on the right upper chest.
We move to the next photograph. What is of note in this photograph?
Yes, sir. So in this photograph, this is an overall photograph of Mr. Torres's torso and head. So his head's towards the top. We can see a much better overall view of the cluster of injuries on the left chest. We can also see a shot cup abrasion, which is sort of orange and dried off towards his left shoulder. There's another likely shot cup abrasion on his right chest, which is more dark red. So again, different ways that wounds dry can kind of cause different colors.
And that would be kind of the largest of the dark areas there on the right chest.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We can also see a better view of the injuries on his right neck, including the surrounding stippling and pseudostippling. And again, we can see the exit wound near his right clavicle. And if we look closely on his right shoulder, you can see some of that right shoulder entrance cluster. Also, I noticed at the bottom of this photograph towards our right, his left, you can see the entrance injury to his left hand, as well as that shot cup abrasion I had mentioned.
Thank you. Moving on to the next photograph. What is this a photograph of?
Yes, sir. So this is a close-up photograph of the left upper chest cluster that we discussed. This is again showing these multiple entrances of what seem to be buckshot shotgun pellets, as well as the shot cup abrasion, which is towards his left shoulder, as well as surrounding stippling, pseudo-stippling.
Moving on to the next photograph. What is this?
So this is another angle of that same cluster, which is just showing his arm stretched out more, so we can also see some of the pseudo-stippling that is stretching onto his left arm.
And is the shot cup abrasion that you've mentioned, is that also depicted there?
It is, yes, that's sort of centered in this photograph.
Moving on to the next photograph, this appears to be a photograph of his back.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So he is face down in this photograph. His head's towards the top. You can see his face is turned toward his left. What we're looking at here is one of the clusters of exit wounds on his left upper back, as well as one you can see more towards the middle of his upper back. That's the exit that I was describing that's associated with this right. Actually, I apologize, I got that backwards. It's associated with the right neck entrance. So it's a compound exit at sort of the left side to the midline of the back. And then we've also got our 5 exits that are more lateral on the left upper back.
Turning to the next photograph, we're still looking at Mr. Torres from the back.
The one I'm looking at has his right neck.
Yes.
Maybe I'm off. Okay, so this is a close-up of the right neck cluster. So we can see those 4 wide gaping wounds I discussed that, we're mentioning that some of these appear to be, again, compound, likely multiple pellets entering through basically the same defects. There's also very dense stippling around it, some of which looks dried. It sort of takes on an orange cast to it. And we can also see some abrasions around it.
Can you do me a favor and look on the back of that photograph and tell me what number is written in?
That is 7306.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure we're looking at the same.
Yes, sir.
Same photograph. Anything else of note on that photograph?
No, sir, nothing else on that photograph.
Turning to the next photograph, which is 7321.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So this is another angle on the right side of his neck, which is also including the right side of his face. This angle is intended to just show sort of the continuity of the stippling and pseudo-stippling from this right neck wound going up onto his face. But otherwise it's showing the same defects. We can also see some of the left upper chest cluster at the bottom of the photo.
Okay. Thank you. Turning to the next photograph.
Yes, sir. So this is the shot cup abrasion I was mentioning that is on the right upper chest. This is a close-up of it, so there's really nothing identifying you can orient yourself with here. But we can tell from that overall that we saw previously that this is that abrasion on the right upper chest. This is darkened, reddish black and dried, but consistent with what I would expect from a shot cup abrasion.
And moving to the next photograph.
Yes, sir. So this is a view of the right shoulder area, includes some of the right neck as well. This is showing the exit near the right clavicle, as well as some other scattered abrasions nearby. You can also see part of the right shoulder entrance cluster on this one.
And still, we've still seeing the continuation of that stippling.
Yes, sir, correct.
Thank you. Move to the next photograph.
Yes, sir. This is looking specifically at that right shoulder entrance. So we're looking from the side of the right shoulder. His head's towards the top. You can see 4 entrance defects, which are, again, fairly irregularly shaped. One of them contains the white plastic shot cup we've been describing. So it actually was embedded in one of the wounds here. You can also see a big swath of abrasion around that entrance. You can imagine that shot cup passing by and sort of causing an abrasion as it was going into the hole there.
Moving on to the next photograph. Is this one of the hand injuries?
Yes, sir. This is looking at the back of his left palm, and so this is showing the entrance that I had described. There, it's a single pellet entrance, appears to be, and just above it, sort of towards this area of his hand, is the red-purple abrasion we discussed, which again looks like maybe a shot cup that passed by and damaged the hand. There's also stippling nearby it.
And those are the irregular dots, kind of towards the wrist area.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Thank you. Moving to the next photograph.
Yes, sir. This, I believe, is near his right knee. This is showing some of these irregular abrasions I mentioned that are likely from pseudo-stippling, from glass and things like that. I believe some of these actually had glass in them.
Okay. And the final picture, what is depicted there?
Yes, sir. So this is a view of Mr. Torres' right arm. So his forearm, his upper arm, as well as his right flank. And so we can see on his forearm and upper arm a lot of very irregular abrasions, which again, mixture of stippling and pseudo-stippling. And then we can see two somewhat larger abrasions on his right flank, which again, I think is probably glass that was sort of driven to him.
Thank you, Dr. Yell. Besides the injuries that you've described and noted in your autopsy, did you note anything or discover anything besides these injuries that could have been fatal to Mr. Torres?
No, sir, nothing.
Okay. Were you able to form an opinion as to the cause and manner of death in this case?
Yes, sir, I did.
What was that?
Was multiple shotgun wounds as the cause of death, and the manner is homicide.
Thank you. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you think the court should know about this particular autopsy?
No, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Yell.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take a 15-minute recess at this time, and we'll resume at 10 minutes until 12.
Superior Court being recessed 15 minutes.
questions for this witness?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Dr. Yell, the other autopsy that you performed related to this case was of James Thompson, is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And how old was Mr. Thompson at the time of your autopsy?
He was listed as 16 years old.
Now, was this autopsy similar to or much different from the other ones that we've heard about today?
Very different from the others we've heard described.
Okay, and can you tell us what made it so?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Thompson did not have any shotgun wound injuries to him. He did instead have a gunshot wound which appeared more consistent with a handgun wound to me, to his head, as well as multiple sharp force injuries, mainly stab injuries to the neck.
And if we could, let's just, and again, not, well, between those two that you've just described, the gunshot wound and the multiple stab injuries,
Mm-hmm.
would be fair to say that the gunshot wound kind of analysis or so is a simpler related to those stab wounds?
Yes, sir. I would say that.
Okay, well, let's start with the gunshot wound, which is what you started with. But again, not an indication of which order they came in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So starting with the gunshot wound, tell us what you noted about that.
Yes, sir. So the entrance of this gunshot wound is on the left back of the scalp. So if I can sort of demonstrate on myself, it would be sort of back about here. This entrance is a single entrance. You know, there's no cluster of shotgun pellets associated with this. There also isn't any sign of range on it. So we've been talking a lot about soot with Dr. Nelson's cases and stippling, pseudo-stippling with my cases. None of that is present on this one. It's just the gunshot wound without any soot or stippling or searing or any of those sorts of things that would tell us how close it was. So we use the term indeterminate range for that, which often means at a greater distance than about 3 feet for a handgun, right? But we say indeterminate because there's always the possibility that there's something in the way that's blocking some of this residue from getting on the skin. So we prefer the indeterminate description. There is no exit associated with this wound, so I did recover a projectile from inside the head related to this wound.
With regards to some of the things that could be in between, blocking, as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
some of that, we've talked about windshields or glass or physical objects. Could
Mm-hmm.
hair also affect that?
Hair can affect that, and particularly someone that has darker colored hair, it can be difficult to see if there is, for example, soot that's sort of trapped in the hair. So that's something to consider, particularly denser, thicker, longer hair.
Okay. And what was the path of this wound, if you know?
Yes, sir. So the path, again, begins at the left back of the head, goes through the skull, and then it passes through the brain, and so it's coming towards basically the right forehead. So it passes through a bunch of brain. It actually strikes the skull at this right forehead and leaves a divot and bounces back into the brain. We call that a ricochet, internal ricochet. And so the bullet passes backward and ends up at sort of the back right part of the brain, near the temple over here.
And what type of injuries or damage did that cause?
Yes, sir. So it damaged several very important parts of the brain, particularly the thalamus is one area of mention. It's sort of a control center, routing center in the middle of the brain that handles a lot of switching, if you will, of signals. In there, it's important in consciousness too. And it also caused significant bleeding in the scalp. It caused bleeding on the surface of the brain, sort of spreading along the surface of the brain, and multiple fractures of the skull, particularly around this ricochet point at the right forehead.
Anything else of note about that particular injury?
I could mention that the projectile that I was able to recover from the brain, again, does not look like a buckshot pellet, as we'd seen in many of these other cases. It instead looked more consistent with what I typically see in a handgun bullet.
All right, and now moving to the your analysis of the stab wounds that you've described. Can you tell us a little bit about, just in generally, I think you mentioned there are stab wounds and incised wounds. What is the difference?
Yes, sir. So stab and incised wounds both fall under the umbrella of what we call sharp force injuries. And so if I could take even a further step back, it's distinguished from blunt force injuries, right? So blunt force injuries have, for example, lacerations. Lacerations would be a tear of the skin that's caused by an impact. That is usually a ragged, irregular kind of tear in the skin, versus sharp force injuries are caused by a sharp object that is causing a more straight-edged injury that is not a tear, it's actually being separated by the force of this sharp edge, right? So that's what we're talking about. Between stab and incised wounds, those are sort of the two major divisions of sharp force injuries. Stab wounds are wounds that are deeper than they are long on the surface of the skin, so the entrance length versus the depth of how far it's penetrating. Incised wounds are longer on the surface than they are deep, so they're more shallow. That's the main difference.
Okay. So in dealing with or documenting these wounds, first of all, were you able to determine an approximate number of wounds overall of this type?
Yes, sir, and it is certainly an estimate in this case because many of these injuries are complex, as we've been describing, things that are overlapping or compound, where it seems like there may be multiple sort of penetrations or injuries in the same spot. Because of that, it's difficult to be sure of how many we're talking about here. But the total I was able to come up with is 57 as an estimate.
And can you tell the court how you, excuse me, how you went about organizing your your documentation of those 57 wounds?
Yes, sir. As Dr. Nelson had described, this is essentially arbitrary. We're trying to break things down in a way that makes it easier to digest and to document. So I'm not necessarily saying that, the wounds in a cluster all happened at the same time versus other wounds in other clusters or things like that. But I broke this up into 4 different clusters that we're going to talk about. So one is on the right anterior neck, so sort of this part of the neck over here that I'm pointing to. Another cluster is on the midline of the neck, so along the front midline and over onto the left side of the neck. There's another that's on the side of the neck, on the left side. And then a last cluster that is at the back left of the neck. So those are sort of the 4 regions that I divided it into.
Okay. And again, in no particular order, can you tell us about what to start with? How about we start with the right neck cluster, or
yes,
is
sir.
there a better place for us to start?
No, that's just fine by me. So the right neck cluster is 14 stab wounds. All of these are fairly small in length, and they're superficial. In other words, they don't go very deep into the underlying skin or soft tissue. They don't really damage any structures underneath. So these are sort of just very light pokes, essentially, on the right side of the neck, 14 of them in a group.
Okay. What about, so moving on to the next cluster.
Yes, sir. So the next cluster is, as we talk about, the midline and to the left of the front of the neck. So this cluster has 16 stab wounds and 6 incised wounds in it. So we're talking about a total of 22 wounds in this cluster. Many of these are deeper. The incised wounds, as we mentioned, are ones that are longer than they are deep. So those just are mostly damaging the skin and soft tissue, right? A lot of those tended to be sort of up under the chin here. The deeper ones were more down on the neck and to the left here. Those penetrated fairly deep. I believe some of them were 2 inches or more deep, and damaged a whole lot of structures in the neck that are important. So multiple muscles were damaged in the neck. The left carotid, which is the major, largest artery in your neck, as well as the left jugular vein, which is the major vein bringing blood from your brain and face back down. The back of the throat essentially was damaged, as well as the larynx, the voice box right here was damaged. The vocal cords and the thyroid cartilage is sort of a part of the larynx as well. And then we had talked before about the spinal column, the different divisions of it. The C3 vertebral body is part of that spinal column in the neck. There was a small bit of damage to that C3 where something sharp had basically caused a divot in that spinal column. And associated with this too was some drainage of blood again down into the lungs, where we see evidence of someone inhaling blood into the lungs. It's sort of draining down the back of the throat.
Okay, and so I believe you've is the term for that aspiration?
Yes, sir, hemoaspiration.
And does that indicate anything to you about the status of this person when those injuries are being inflicted?
Yes, sir. That does indicate to me that he was at least still breathing at the time when these were inflicted, although he may not have been conscious, right?
And so that cluster, as you've described, that we just talked about, was kind of the midline left neck cluster. What was another cluster that you haven't described yet?
Yes, sir. So the next one in my listing is on the side of the left neck, so left lateral neck, another way to say that. This has 10 stab wounds over on this side of the neck, and these essentially are, again, sort of a muddle with the cluster I just described. These are also fairly deep. They injure some of the same structures, but they basically cause a big mess on the left side of the neck.
And was there another, a final, I think you said 4, was there a final cluster that you described in your autopsy?
Yes, sir, there is. So that is the left back of the neck, the posterolateral left neck. That's a cluster of 11 sharp force injuries. 8 of those are stab wounds and 3 of those are incised wounds. And these don't seem to go as far forward to damage the front of the neck structures that we were just talking about. These mostly damage muscle at the back left of the neck.
And did you note any blunt traumas while you were performing this autopsy?
I did, yes. There are bruises of the right hip and the left wrist, and there is a scrape above the right knee, but these are non-specific injuries that could be from anything, could be from doing something else earlier that day.
Before we move on to discussing any photographs in this, anything else of note about those wounds or wound clusters that you'd like the court to know?
No, sir, I don't think so.
So I'll ask you to flip forward in Case Exhibit 8 to that first identifying photograph of James Thompson.
Yes, sir.
And besides, what we've talked about before, the identification purposes, are any of the wounds visible on this first photograph?
Yes, sir. There are some wounds visible here, particularly on the left side of the neck. You can see some of the stab wounds, some on the chin as well.
So I'll move you to the next photograph. What is that a photograph of?
Yes, sir. This is a photograph of the left back of the head where we discussed there's an entrance gunshot wound there. This is a photograph after I have shaved some of the hair away to make it easier to see the characteristics of that wound.
Okay. And was the hair that James Thompson had kind of that dark, thicker hair that you've described?
It is dark and fairly dense, yes, sir.
So if you can, I'll ask you to flip to the next photograph, and can you tell the court what we're looking at here?
Yes, sir. So this is looking at the right side of his neck, particularly showing that cluster of 14 shallow stab wounds that I had discussed in that area.
And those were all, I believe, you superficial. Is that the word you used?
Yes, sir.
Meaning they don't penetrate too deeply.
Yes, sir. Correct.
What else? What other injuries, if any, do we see in this photograph?
We can see the edge of a few incised wounds, one of which stretches across the midline of the neck. I included it with the midline cluster that's next, but you can see it in this photo as well.
That's the longer kind of side to side.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay. I'll ask you to flip to the next photograph. What is depicted there, and can you kind of orient us to Mr. Thompson's kind of his orientation?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So we're looking at the front of the neck, essentially. And so we have his chin lifted up. So the top of his head is toward the top of the photograph. His left is on the right of the photograph. And so this is focusing on showing the injuries that we're discussing in that left midline cluster. And you can also see that right cluster we'd already discussed here. But it's showing basically the locations of all those wounds in that left to midline cluster.
And the top of that photograph, is that another incised wound?
Yes, sir. It is. The one that's directly on his chin is an incised wound.
Anything of note? Anything else of note about this photograph?
No, sir.
I'll ask you to turn to the next photograph.
Mm-hmm.
And can you describe what is depicted there?
Yes, sir. So this photograph is looking at the left side of his neck. So his head is turned away. We can see the top of his head toward the top of the photograph. And this particularly is showing, because of the way neck tension works as you turn your head away, these are very gaping in this photograph. But you get a sense of how there's multiple overlying stab wounds that are sort of in the same defect here.
And this being, I guess, the third of the four clusters that you described.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I'll ask you to turn to the next, take a second to look at the next photograph. I believe you mentioned some blunt force traumas. Could that be what's depicted there?
Yes, sir, I think it is. This is a close-in shot, so I'm not exactly sure of the location on this one, but it does look like a small abrasion.
Okay. And would that be, I'll ask you to turn to the next photograph, that would be the same type of description?
Yes, sir.
And then finally, the last photograph, again, is that another blunt force?
It is. This is an abrasion above the right knee.
In performing your autopsy of James Thompson, did you discover or note anything else that could have contributed to his death in this case? Besides the injuries that you...
Besides the injuries, no, sir, nothing.
Were you able to form an opinion as to the cause and manner of his death?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
The cause is gunshot wound of head and multiple shot force injuries of neck, and the manner is homicide.
Is there anything else about this autopsy that I haven't asked about that is of note that you would like to make the court aware of?
No, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Yo.
Mr. Elmore, questions for this witness?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Casey Clark.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, face Madam Clerk.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Once you're comfortable, please just introduce yourself to the judge, tell him your name, and spell it for the court reporter.
Good afternoon, Judge. My name is Casey Clark, C-A-S-E-Y-C-L-A-R-K.
Mr. Clark, how are you currently employed?
I am a realtor in Michigan.
Okay. In 2022, how were you employed?
I was a police officer with the City of Raleigh.
And how long had you been with the City of Raleigh?
At that point, it was a little over 10 years.
And what was your role with the City of Raleigh Police Department at that time?
I was on the Selective Enforcement Unit.
What is the Selective Enforcement Unit?
That is the city's version of SWAT.
And can you describe for us how you go about getting on that unit, and if you have specialized training or things like that?
Yes, sir. You have to have at least 6 years. You have to be a you have to be a master officer, so 4 years of experience to try out. During the tryout, there's very physical, demanding. There's shooting involved. You have to be accurate. You have a oral interview with the command staff and the supervisors of the Selective Enforcement Unit. And then you have to be selected. You have a psych eval, and that's it.
Okay. So you got to go through a lot to get on that.
Yes, sir.
And is that something that you wanted to do your career?
Yes, sir. That was my entire intent, was to become a member of the Selective Enforcement Unit.
And you were able to accomplish that?
Yes, sir.
Before you did that, you were a line officer or anything else in the police department?
I was on a district-wide specialized unit prior to that line, then the specialized unit for the Southwest District, where we were we targeted gang members, drug dealers, car theft, a lot of investigative work, and dealing with community-specific problems.
When did you stop being a police officer?
I was no longer employed by the Raleigh Police Department June 1st of 2024.
And what was the reason for your separation of employment?
I was shot in the knee and unable to return.
So medically you were unable to perform that?
Yes, sir.
As a part of your employment with the SEU or the Selective Enforcement Unit with the Raleigh Police Department, did you get involved in the investigation of the spree shooting or mass shooting reports that were happening in the Hedingham neighborhood on October the 13th of 2022?
Yes, sir.
What was your role in that October investigation?
I had worked that morning, worked the entire shift, then was off was at a doctor's appointment, and then started getting the notifications of this. Spoke with a detective, former member of the SEU, and then I responded in.
So you had already worked a shift?
Yes, sir.
You were off and gone to a doctor's appointment, but you decided to go back in?
Yes, sir.
And why did you decide to go back in and get involved in this?
Because this was an all hands on deck. This is an active shooter that was not located. Last I had heard, he was running through the woods with a long gun and camo. That is a clear SEU response.
And so when you re-engaged with your employment, you went back to work
Yes,
that
sir.
day. Where did you go? What did you do upon first getting involved?
I went home. I changed back out. I waited for my wife to get home. She was picking up the kid. Said goodbye, drove in. Earlier that day, we had executed a search warrant for a child sex predator. I think it was about 2 miles away from the scene. So speaking with other members of my team that was off, that was returning in as well, we made the logical conclusion that that seemed like the direction he was heading. So we wanted to go to that location, get ready, and kind of be that blocking force we knew there was already Team 2 was in. we knew they were responding. They were going to be tracking him from where they last saw him. We were going to try to guess to jump the track and be that stopping force for when he would run into us.
So there was another SEU team that was already involved, is that right?
Correct.
And you and your group met back up at this place that you were familiar with,
Yes, sir.
and it was kind of ahead of where you thought the person may be going?
Correct. That seemed to be the direction the track was taking.
Okay. And so when you did that, did you meet up with your other teammates there?
I did, yes, sir.
Once you guys got together and got situated, what was the next thing that you all went about doing?
We split up into 2 groups. There was only, I think, maybe 5 or 6 of us that had made it there at that point. We split into 2 groups, and we kind of divided in certain areas, and were waiting as a perimeter unit until there was further to direct our position.
At some point, was there somewhere for you to go?
Yes. Over the radio, we heard that a passerby had stopped, spoken with, I believe, a trooper, who relayed that she saw a young white male in camo carrying a long gun and backpack had just crossed the road close to where we were. So we responded there, waited for K-9, and Wake County K-9 arrived, and we began a track.
So a witness had seen somebody cross a road. Did they tell you a direction where that person had gone, or were you informed of a direction where that person had gone?
I was informed they crossed the road. I did not have a specific direction other than it was cross the road and into these woods.
Okay, so another wooded area.
Correct.
Can you describe that wooded area, how dense it was, what the terrain was kind of like?
It was pretty dense. It was fall time, so there was leaves on the ground. It was just a 2-lane road, woods on either side. You can't see very far into them. You had to go up a little hill to begin, and hilly and a lot of woods, but I didn't see a house.
Okay. And did you go into those woods?
I did.
And you said there was a K-9 that was tracking?
Correct.
Did the group of you travel with that K-9?
Yes, sir.
And tell us what happened with the K-9 track, if you can.
We followed along with the K-9. There were, I think, maybe 4 or 5 SEU officers that were on this specific track, and a few deputies. I think Highway Patrol was with us as well. We tracked for a long time. We encountered a hunting blind. Myself and a couple SEU guys cleared that.
When you say clear, what do you mean?
We searched it, made sure that he was not holed up in this hunting blind. We then continued on with the track. There was a helicopter overhead, so it made it very difficult to hear. And we continued to the track until we got to a fence line that had a house in the distance and then 2 outbuildings.
Now, how are you dressed? Are you in a uniform at this time?
I was in a uniform with my plate carrier, helmet, night vision, and rifle.
When you say plate carrier, is that like armor?
That's an exterior armor that's ballistic rated for rifle rounds.
Is it daylight at this time?
It's getting dusk.
So when you get to this fence, what's the kind of calculus that you do and what decisions do you make?
We stop momentarily there, verify to see whether or not the dog is going to go clear these outbuildings or we are going to. The decision was made that we would push up. SEU would clear the buildings. Myself, Officer Garner, and Sergeant Smithy cleared the initial building, pushed through, cleared the building. I was covering long to the right while they were clearing to the right or to the left. You can see most of the other building that's kind of staggered, where one ends, the next one begins, but across a 30-yard or so little alley. You can see most of that, but there was still a garage door that was down, and then the back corner there that we could not see, that we were going to have to clear.
So let me ask you this. So you guys jumped that fence, and there's a building that's closest to you?
Correct.
And that's the building that you kind of cleared?
Correct. We see the back side of that, so we had to go around, clear that way, and then there was a second building staggered off to a little further away.
So there's a grassy area in between,
Yes.
and then another building staggered that would be across from you.
Correct.
Okay. And so you clear this building to the left, And you're standing in the middle area?
Standing closer to the building we just cleared, but we stopped at the edge of that, and I'm facing that direction. That's my zone of coverage at that point.
Why are you doing that?
The two that cleared that building were on the inside, and they were taking care of that. My entire responsibility is making sure that there's nothing out there that would be a threat to us. And I'm imagining long gun camo. I expected that this would be a good spot for him to be holed up and taking aim at us.
You said it was getting dark. Are you able to see clearly?
It's dusk, so you can see, but there was a flashlight that swept across that opening, which made it a little easier to see in there. But it's at that point of losing visibility.
Okay. And while you're standing there providing this cover, what happens next?
I hear a gunshot and I feel what felt like a train going through my knee. Drops me to the ground.
When that happens, what do you do?
I sit up. I'm looking for the threat. Point my gun in that direction, but I'm looking for the threat. I don't fire because I know that the moment I start firing, I'm not going to be able to see any movement. I'm expecting to be looking for a face since he's in camo.
What about your other teammates? Do they return fire?
They do.
And does anybody help you when you go down?
They do.
What happens?
Officer Martin grabs me from my plate carrier and drags me behind the shed.
When you're back there, what happens?
He applies a tourniquet.
Were you able to see anybody ever?
No, sir.
And when I say that, anybody ever that fired at you?
Correct. I did not see a person nor a flash.
And you say they applied a tourniquet to you?
Yes, sir.
And do you stay at that location behind the shed, or what happens with you?
After the tourniquet is applied, I am then assisted out of the area and driven to the hospital.
And when you get to the hospital, can you tell us what, if anything, happens and what you find out?
They evaluate my knee. They take imaging and make the determination that they're not going to perform surgery at this time, bandage it up, and I am released.
Tell me about what injury you suffered.
I suffered a gunshot pellet to the knee, or to the top of my tibia. Entered in on the side of the knee, hit the tibia, and is lodged there now.
As a result of that injury, tell us what kind of pain or issues that you deal with because of that.
The primary issue that I have is that my knee will give out on me without any warning. Standing, walking, I might just drop. The pain I'm feeling is the constant pain is the feeling of a electricity going across this area where I was shot. It feels similar to like a TENS unit constantly on. And then in addition to that, it will feel like someone's drilling into my bone.
I saw, and I could be wrong, but I saw when you sat down, you kind of grimaced. Was that related to this, or did you bang your leg when you sat down?
This is related to the gunshot.
Okay.
It's something I live with.
It's something you live with. And you said that as a result of this, you no longer got to be a police officer.
Yes, sir.
How did that affect you?
That was hard. That was my entire life goal, was to be on the SWAT team. That was my dream. I was 3 years in, so just started my career with it. And, it was difficult. That was my family, and that was a lot.
So you've given that up, not voluntarily.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess, other than what you've just told us, how has this affected you?
It's affected my family a lot. It's my wife specifically has a lot of trauma from this. Excuse me.
Take your time.
She's constantly, instead of the happy-go-lucky woman that I married, where she was able to walk down the street, not stressed, now she evaluates everyone as a threat. she has a lot more fear than she used to. My son's now asking me every time I reach for my leg, is that because you were shot? Now I have to explain. Eventually, I haven't explained to him what happened, but that's something I'm gonna have to live with. Of it's gonna come up. It's public record. The video of me getting shot is on YouTube.
How old is your son?
He is 4 now. Just walking through woods used to be enjoyable to me. It was pleasant, peaceful. Now I'm evaluating, looking for a threat, looking for the shooter that's in the woods. Makes no sense, but that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Now, you talked a little bit about there being a video of this on the internet. Was that because you had on body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
And did it capture the events of you getting shot?
It did.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to admit State's Exhibit Number 9, which is the body-worn camera for Officer Clark.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
It's allowed.
And we would ask to publish it on the screen.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Hold up, Dave. Dave. Ladder up back.
past the houses. Just worry about cramping up at that point. Hey, Sergeant. What's up? Don't forget to look up. Slow it down so we can get to you. You're by yourself. Shut up. Jeez. Wake SO K9 is tracking west towards some garages in the house, most likely off of Charco Club Drive. I'm far, right. Right knee. All right, Lewis, turn the kid on. You turn the kid on, right knee. Right knee. It looks like it's straight that way. It's not tight, it's not tight.
Okay. Hey, pull his main leg up real quick. Do you need anywhere else?
Knee's the only thing I know of.
All right. Let me get you two. We're going to start working with him to get the attraction out. Pull him a little bit further back. Casey, how we doing?
I'm nauseous, but I'm good.
You're going to be all right, brother.
I'm good.
Right foot, hold there.
I don't know you're tight enough yet.
360.
Tighten that one up. Put this one on. Above it. Tighten that second again. It is not going to tighten at all. Shift my knee, it's fine.
Is the wound below this?
That feels like my kneecap, lower kneecap. It might have been a ricochet because it didn't feel like it was that big.
How's this feel? Okay.
Not as tight as I remember one. Do me a favor, put one more.
Here, we got Mark. Are you reset? Here's what we're going to do. Y'all are going to pull him. While they're tending him, follow me real quick.
Hey, if someone just gets me up on my feet, I can go on one leg. We're just chilling.
You got a tourniquet on? Put a second on. You need a card? I got one if you need it. Down. Good? Focus on me.
Yep. Good. Yep.
All right. Where were you at? Where were you at?
I was standing about 15 feet at a 45-degree angle from this, and it looked like it was coming directly that way.
Casey, your tourniquet, the second one.
Yep.
Good.
The it feels pretty tight now. The knees could be
I'm
tighter.
good. Me and State are good. Raleigh officer shot. We're going to get the back to him. All right. That's as tight as I can get done. Here, take him. I'm staying. Hey,
I'm gonna have this ball.
take it off.
Yeah, and stop. Underneath my arms, my armpit, and stand me up.
Ready?
Yep. Yep.
Down that way so we're not standing.
Yep.
Can we cut right and get into the woods?
Hey, go across, let me use the fence. Go down there. Yep. Go right. Let's get further away from this guy. We're moving pretty slow. No, stay with us. You're the only lethal. Hey, stay with us. You're lethal right now. No one else is. Did you see him in the garage or no? Okay. We're trying to figure that out. I don't want him doubling back on us in the woods. I was laying down covered in the woods. Yeah, I didn't see him. I never saw him. I didn't either, man. Fuck. I just started fucking. Don't feel like me. There's an actual bullet. I know what that is. That way! Cover that way! Yeah! I'm good. I'm good. 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 That way! You might be going towards there. They got him pretty much stopped. We don't know if he's in the woods or in the building. I'm good. Relax, I got this. Good. I got this. Good. I'm good. Relax. We're good. Don't hit anyone. It's all right. We're good. Merely a flesh wound.
Casey, it wasn't just merely a flesh wound, was it?
No, sir.
Okay. I want to ask you a couple things really quickly after watching that video. I mean, you guys are walking through those woods for about 15 minutes before you get to the fence line, is that right?
Yes, sir.
At that point in time, do you know where this person is?
Not a clue.
And there were a lot of trees and brush. In your mind, could he have been anywhere out there?
He could have been anywhere. Yes.
And so you guys are following this canine track, but you kind of happen upon this building, and that's where you encountered him.
Correct. We were following the canine track. I knew we were following him. There wasn't a doubt in my mind with the description we got of the track we started, that and the way the canine was pulling was consistent with other tracks I've been on. I knew we were following someone, and the only logical person it would be Austin.
Okay. And you were kind of given instructions when you were being escorted to safety about getting in the wood line. Why were you trying to get over there at that point?
Because I knew the direction I was shot from, and we were walking into the open of where I knew where the bullet had come from. So I was trying to get further away and keeping the building that we had used for cover previously as cover and concealment to get us out of there.
Okay. Now you say now you live in Michigan, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've traveled all this way to be here for this hearing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you would like to tell the judge from your perspective about what you would like to see happen at the end of this hearing?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Judge.
Yes.
I wanted to point out that this is what a 15-year-old could do with minimal life experience and ability. I don't want to see what a grown adult that had decades of time to plan the next assault. I am asking you to give him life without parole.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Case, is there anything else you want the court to know?
No, sir.
Thank you for being here. No further questions.
Thank you.
Questions?
Very briefly, is it Officer Clark?
Just Casey Clark now.
All right, Mr. Clark. It sounds like you had extensive training, is that right?
Yes.
But it's still a high adrenaline job, is that right?
Yes.
Your training gets you through that, right?
Correct.
But before you were injured, going through those woods, you were walking with a purpose, right?
Correct.
And I could hear you breathing heavy at points, right?
Correct.
You and the other officers were sort of stating directions really strongly, right?
Correct.
And that's that adrenaline of this situation, right?
No, that's the training.
It's the
We
training.
want to be very clear. I think there's 8 to 10 people with us, all spread out. We want to make sure that it is clear and concise so that everyone hears it.
It seems like everybody is trying to make sure that eyes are everywhere, right?
Correct.
There's a clear awareness of the potential danger, is that right?
Correct.
And that's because of the situation that you're in, right?
Correct.
All right. No further questions.
Thank you. Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Very much. We'll go ahead and recess for lunch and resume at 2:30.
Yes, Your Honor, Superior Court being recessed to 14:30 hours, 2:30 p.m.